You just bought your brand new CRF450L, or RL now, and you're looking to do modifications to it because that's what we do with our motorcycles. What is the what is the first thing you should do? That's easy. On the Honda, you need to change out the ECU from the stock one to one of these three guys right here. And I say one of these three because these are the three currently on the market. The Vortex, the Athena GET, and the AiM Taipan. There's also the Dyno Jet. I had that for a little while and I did not like it whatsoever. It's also the cheapest option, but I wouldn't do it. Go ahead and save up a couple extra $100 or find one of these guys used online. That's just my opinion. Now, why do we need a new ECU for our brand new Honda? Easy. That Honda, the CRF450RL, was built to be a dual sport bike, dual purpose bike. So it had to also pass emissions laws, which dirt bikes don't have to. But they didn't want to change the engine because they're Honda, right? Not that they're cheap, but the Honda design has worked forever, so they're not going to go around and change it too much. So they just needed to retune the engine, take away a little bit of the horsepower so it lasts longer, and make it run super, super lean so that they can pass emissions laws. And when they did that, they unfortunately took away about 20 horsepower, even more if you have a European bike. And they also made the throttle, which all thumpers, all single cylinder EFI bikes are going to be twitchy. It's just in their nature to act that way. In the Honda's case, it made it extra twitchy. Almost unrideable unless you really take the time to learn that first like 1 degree of throttle. But you don't want to do that. You want your bike to just run like you wish it would run. So in order to do that, there's a couple different ways of doing it. The easiest plug and play, run and gun is to change out your ECU. And these will all tame that a little bit. Some are better than others. Some are amazing at it. Some are, it's okay. Let's quick talk about what all these ECUs have in common. They're going to give you more power. They're going to take away some of your gas mileage because that's what more power does. They all have a traction control of some sort. They all have custom-made fuel ignition maps, which is, you know, throttle position, X amount of fuel, X amount of advance and retard of your spark, blah, 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 a whole bunch of stuff. It's not just more fuel. There's more going on in there than just that. Each of these ECUs are programmed by somebody who has their idea of what the best way to run your dirt bike for you is. You may or may not agree with that. Whether it's Australia or Italy or some dude in San Antonio, Texas, I don't know. They all have an idea of what you want. And those ideas vary from, I want my RL to run like a dirt bike, like it was designed to be, to I want my RL to run like a road bike capable of doing anything in the dirt, because I'm going to put in a lot of road miles, a lot of high speed miles. So you can see there's going to be some differences in how these things are mapped. They all come with, or you can buy them aftermarket, doodads like map switches. So you can switch between like a dyno map, which is pure horsepower, and the enduro map, which takes away some of that horsepower. And I'm going to say this probably 5 or 6 times in this video, it's easy to take away horsepower. That's nothing. It is hard to give you horsepower, and it's even harder to give you all the horses you want, but still keep it usable. And I think there are some differences in these maps in that regard as well. Now, I say they all come with doodads. The Vortex comes with a switch. The GET is on the other end of the spectrum. The GET comes with the box, but you can also buy a Wi-Fi adapter for it so it can talk to your phone. You can add a map switch to it. You can get another dongle that adds a dial for your traction control. I mean, this thing turns into a serious octopus with all kinds of stuff added to it if you add everything to it. The AiM is kind of the same way, and my AiM right now is in the bike, so I don't have it here with me. But that comes with the box only, or you can get a switch to switch between maps and do some other things. And my understanding is you can also program it from your computer if you get another dongle and another program. So they all have doodads, and that's going to affect the cost. So real quick, basically the Vortex is $760 with an $80 switch as of this video. That's a little over $800 to add to your $11,000 bike. But wait, there's more. The AiM is $700 plus $190 plus whatever else. So now you're looking at $900 for all the doodads. And then the GET, the way the GET is sitting here, so this is $825, and double check those prices because they can change for the unit and the Wi-Fi, which is separate. And then you start adding on all kinds of crazy money for the traction control switch and the map switch and all that fun stuff. So this can get up over $1,000 if you add everything to it. Now, all of these are perfectly capable of running with just the ECU itself, as long as you talk to whoever you buy it from and make sure that the map that's installed is the map you want to use, because these two guys can't be changed on the fly without a doodad. The Vortex, however, is the one that's unique. It comes with, let's see if you can see the switches on there. So you can change oh, I'm on the wrong end. You can change what map you're running over here, and then you can adjust the fuel trim levels over here, plus or minus. Now, the Vortex is a little misleading as it comes with 10 maps, but 0 is for your stock. Well, you double check that because that changes all the time too. But let's say 0 is for a stock exhaust, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 are for an FMF exhaust, or is it Yosh? I forget which way it goes. And then the other for an FMF exhaust, but they're the same map from power to enduro, which is, again, taking some power away. So really, you're not getting 10 maps, and you're either going to use 0 or 1 through 9. So now you're kind of split up into exhaust or no. See where I'm going with this? And then depending on which exhaust you get, you're going to use either 1 through 4 or 5 through 9, or however that works out. But really, you're only getting those maps. Basically, all you care about is all the horsepower you can handle, and the enduro, soften it up a little bit. That's too much horsepower. I can't handle it. So all you really care about, honestly, are 2 maps. All these other trims should be set for your bike the way you're going to run it, but not necessarily. I think Moto likes to point out the fact that if you're in Baja and you get crappy gas, you might have to take some ignition timing away in order to get your bike to run at all on some of the gas water. And maybe they throw some tequila in there, I don't know. But in order to get your bike to run right, you might have to mess around with it a little bit. And having these switches and having these be able to be programmable helps that. So those are the commonalities between the ECUs. And then obviously, like I said, there are some differences. The biggest one, I think, being the fact that the GET you can program with your phone and see all the your settings and your map switches and change switches and fine-tune your map all on your phone wherever you are. The Vortex goes super low-tech with these switches. And then the AiM, you actually have to buy the extra switch to change that stuff. And that all changes with that one big giant switch. And you'll see this when I show to you on the bike. But what you guys really want to know is which one to buy, which one's the best, which one solves the RL's problems of not enough power and too twitchy of a throttle. In order to do that, it was pretty simple that I just swapped ECUs out and rode the bike and did some testing. I tried to keep the testing as consistent as I could between bikes, although there are going to be some differences. Obviously, the Vortex, I've run that thing for 18,000 miles and it's run flawlessly. So I'm pretty familiar with how well it works, how much horsepower it adds, and how it gets rid of the twitchy throttle. And then these two guys, next I'm going to guess I probably use the GET the most and then the AiM the least. But I've got enough miles on them, and the differences are stark enough, night and day enough, that anybody through the seat of the pants riding and feel can tell the difference between which ECU you're running. So whether you're team yellow, green, or pink is going to come down to your preferences on a couple things. But for this video, what I did is I went out back and I've got my little tiny oval track and I've got a kind of little cone set up and I did a couple tests. I did a standing flame out where I just tried to blip the throttle and see if I could get the bike to stall. I put up I think it's like a 6x8, and then would bump into that and try to get the bike to stall while it was moving. Jerky throttle is just me riding as slow as I can and speeding up and slowing down. And then traction control. I went around my little dirt oval a couple times and just tried to swing the back end out and played around with the settings. The only one that really has a lot of settings is the GET. And that was a lot of fun, seeing the difference between all the different traction controls on this thing. And then I would take it out to the road and ride. I went to get groceries. I went to the post office. I did whatever. And I got on it and tried to figure out what the horsepower felt like. Again, I don't have a dyno. If somebody wants to donate one to me, that would be amazing. I have no idea where I would put it, but it would come in handy. But there are definite differences between the horsepower and the feel of each of these. So let's go out back, ride the bike around, and I'll show you some things. Before we do that, I'm going to interrupt myself. I need to give a huge shout out to Mike Spurgeon of Taco Moto. And I think a lot of these videos you see are not sponsored by them. I still have to send these back, but they are donated in order to show off the capabilities of the different ECUs. And Mike is huge. If you have a KTM, I'm sure you know who he is. He's really getting into the CRF450L scene in a big way. So he sent these to me, and he went above and beyond. The first GET I had some really old program in it, and I could stall the bike so easy it wasn't even fun to ride. So he took that back and sent me a new one with the updated version, which is much better. And same thing with the AiM. He sent me an AiM, and then they updated the maps, and he insisted, don't even ride with this, although I did. And then he sent me another one with the new updated maps. So all these are updated with their maps. The TPS sensors for each one, and you have to reset them differently for each one, were set to 0. The RPMs on the bike were set to 1800 so that they were all consistent. And then the last thing I have to say, and this is also another big shout out to Taco Mike, was my bike does not like the AiM or the GET. The processing power of these guys is much more than the Vortex. Vortex is like old school analog compared to these guys. And for some reason, my bike, when it gets hot, when it gets really warmed up, runs like crap with both of these. Just my bike. I've talked to many people who have the AiM and the GET, and theirs run perfect. So there's something wrong with my bike. So between runs, I would have to let the bike cool off back down to room temperature, and then go out and do it again. So there's something weird about my bike. So I want you guys to keep that in mind too about when you watch these reviews, right? Watch the reviewer. Is he keeping everything consistent? Does he or she have biases against or for something? And are they being completely open and honest? I want to be always open and honest with you guys. These things are $1,000. I do not want you to go out and spend $1,000 and then have your, significant other who watches a checking account come and shoot me in my sleep. I don't need that. So I'm going to be really honest about this. My opinions, I think, are pretty consistent with what a lot of other reviewers have said. It just took me a little longer to get to those opinions. And I wanted to be sure. So, all right, I'm going to shut up. We're going to go get some video of me riding around in the mud and the dirt and whatever. And then we'll come back and we'll discuss my final feelings on all this stuff. Okay? So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to check the flame out when it's just sitting and idling, the flame out when it's going slow and technical, and then we're going to kind of feel for the twitchy throttle. I've gotten pretty good at being able to blip the throttle just good enough to kill the bike. But again, remember, it's a thumper, right? It's a fuel injected thumper, so it's already at a disadvantage. But this is the Vortex, so we're going to do those 3 things. And the first is, we're going to see if I can kill the bike by just blipping the throttle. Now it's all warmed up, and yeah, oh, you hear kind of, give it a smaller one. So it's right there, but I haven't been able to kill it. Don't forget, the most important part of that is keeping your RPMs up around 1800. All right, so now we're going to go for twitchy throttle. And again, this is all subjective to how I think it should feel. Let's get turned around. So smooth, right? So smooth. All right, so I'm going to say that there's no twitch at all. You can see me easing the throttle on, and the power just comes out nice. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over, I'm going to bump this, and see if I can't kind of bounce off it like you're at something technical and you hit a rock. But we'll see how it does. That's not supposed to happen. There we go. I stalled it. Well, I did stall it. Well, I did manage to kind of stall it. I don't know if I can blame that on the Vortex or not, though. All right, well, there's the Vortex's three tests I guess we'll call them. Now we're going to test the traction control on the Vortex. And all I have, I'm just going to do a couple laps. I just have a really small oval here. This is not hero dirt. This is basically mud that's just starting to dry out. So I'm going to go around and do 2 laps, 2 without traction control. I'm going to stop and turn it on and then do 2 more and just see if I can feel a difference. I've ridden with the Vortex with traction control before, and honestly, I've never really noticed it doing anything. I told you it was muddy, man. Holy shit. On, man. Good God, it's like fucking soup back here. Oh. That did nothing, man. Well, if it's working, I can't tell. There we go. I got nothing. We've got the AiM all loaded up. Now we're going to see if we can't blip the throttle, install it, bounce off that log, install it. We're going to check for throttle smoothness. Good. Wow, all right. That's, I don't know if you can hear it over the motor. That's a little more even, that's even a little more stable than the Vortex was. All right. Let's see how twitchy throttle is. I'm just inching it and letting it off. Oh, it's so muddy out here. Oh, nice. I am super impressed. All right, let's go hit that log and see what happens. Easy peasy. I think I can get around again at it. Whoop. Oh, they hit the cone. Hey, wow. Well. Wow. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. Let's see how the GET does on our blip test. Ooh. Ooh. Not as smooth as the AiM for sure. And I stalled it. I told you I could get it to do it. The other thing with the GET, for some reason, I can't smooth my idle out. You can hear it. It's idling a little lower than it should be. There we go, that's better. It's a little higher. It's still not as nice as the AiM for sure. It's about like the Vortex. See that? Not sure what that is. Let me give it one more shot. And yes, I did check the throttle, TPS, blah, blah, blah. I did all that stuff. All right, well, I don't think it's going to do as good as the AiM did for sure. All right, well, let's try the twitchy throttle test. Whoa! No, it's all right. It's all right, but it's way harder of a hit than the AiM. Oh my goodness. It's better than stock, but that AiM is so much smoother. All right, let's try to hit this log and see what happens. Okay, how about that? Come on. There we go. All right, well. Oh, it's gonna die. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna blame it on my bike does not like the GET ECU. I don't know why. I went through all the steps, calibrated the TPS, I didn't change anything else on the bike between the AiM, the Vortex, and the GET. I have a mini gauge, right, that gives me my RPMs and all the other data that Honda left off their dual sport bike. Fresh cup of coffee, ready to go. Here is my opinion on the 3 ECUs. First of all, the Vortex, the OG of the group. These guys have been making ECUs for the CRF450L, specifically the longest. And in that time, they've learned nothing. They have changed maps here and there a little bit, but nothing big, and it's impossible for you or I to just change these out. It's the same ECU it's always been, and it works good. So I can say this about it: it's solid. You don't have to buy any dongles to adjust anything. It just comes complete and ready to go. But it leaves a lot of horsepower and a lot of kind of cool doodads on the table. I am going to be switching out to either the GET or an AiM, and probably, like a lot of people, going to be putting my Vortex up on eBay. Don't send me a thing, can I buy your Vortex? I'll get 1,000 of them, and I don't need that. But if you look on eBay, you can find these for 400 bucks because people are switching away from it. Not that it is a bad ECU. I'm not saying that. It has been solid. Again, 18,000 miles, no issues. So, OG, bomb-proof. You don't have to mess with anything, and it comes with everything already with it. The AiM. Awesome power. It gives you all the power up front and then kind of levels off as you get your RPMs up. So it's kind of a hard hitter and then goes away. I found that if I wanted to keep accelerating hard, I had already used up all my steam. And the one thing I'm a little concerned about, and I didn't do this with anything but the Vortex, is I ride my bike as an adventure bike a lot. It's got a lot of extra weight. And I'm worried that this won't pull hard enough on the higher RPMs. Having said that, the throttle response on this thing is ridiculous. I've used the throttle tamer, which I love. I took it off. I've used a couple other aids to tame the throttle. What I found with those aids is that if you actually want to whack the throttle and hit it hard, you've really got to torque the throttle around. And it makes it harder to do some maneuver. So that's why I took the throttle tamer off my bike. This thing is like having a throttle tamer and the Vortex and I don't know, and using my wrist for 4 years on the same bike all at once. This has the absolute smoothest roll-on throttle, gets rid of all the on-off, and I cannot say enough. So this I'm going to recommend if you are new to the bike and you're never going to change maps. You don't care. You just want it to run. You might mess around with 2 maps. You're not a tinkerer, but you still want it to run really good, and maybe you're not going to go 90 miles an hour on your bike, or let's call it 50 or 60, right? You're going to do all your stuff down low, technical trail riding, technical single track or whatever. This is the guy for you right here. It works so well. I was so impressed with how well they mapped that throttle, the initial throttle opening. And I say opening, right? All we're really doing is moving the slide plate and dumping in more gas. I really like that. The GET, with at least one dongle, with at least one doodad hanging off of it. Without this, I don't know. Then we'd have to, now we've got a different thing going on. But if you get at least the Wi-Fi connection, the GET hits hard and pulls all the way through the power band. It just pulls right up until it hits the rev limiter, and you shift and you repeat. It is amazing, the power out of this. The Wi-Fi connection to your phone makes everything programmable. You can switch, you can download maps, you can do whatever the latest, greatest thing is, and it goes right through your phone. You can add the switch to it, right, and switch between your full power mode and your enduro map, or however you want to do it. And then if you get the traction control, that traction control works. Now, it works from super subtle down, like 1, 2, 3, 4 is subtle, 5, 6, 7 is usable, 8, 9 is still kind of usable, but 8, 9, 10, when it takes power away from the rear wheel, it is so abrupt, it's jarring. It's like you hit it, you lose traction, and all of a sudden you just hook right back up because it's taking all the power away from your back wheel and actually throws you forward on the bike. Which is why they give you a 10 and you don't dial it up to 10. But it's there and it works, and it's another thing. So the GET just has so many options to it, it's stupid. The one thing I don't like, and maybe whoever writes the next map for this thing can figure out, is if the GET had the low down throttle control of the AiM, I would just take the AiM and say, don't even bother. I would recommend the GET for everybody, but it doesn't. The GET still has kind of a herky-jerky down bottom, and it's still possible to stall it. And I'm not sure why. I'm not a programmer. I don't understand how they can't just copy this map to this. Maybe you can, I don't know. But that's its only failing. Now, I am pretty good at modulating my own throttle because I've been doing it for so long. So for my money, I would probably hang on to the GET just to have all the horsepower. I am probably, honestly, I'm not going to reprogram my bike in the middle of the desert. It's not a thing I do. I like to tinker a little bit, but I'm not like a huge make my own map kind of guy. So this is overkill. And the difference in price between kitting this out and kitting the AiM out is probably $200 or $300. And this might sound weird, but like once you get past that $700, $800 mark, the other couple $100 is just, it's another 10, 20%. It's nothing. It's taxes. So the winner chicken dinner is the GET, unless you don't need all this fancy crazy stuff, in which case the AiM works really, really good. And I'm sure Takamoto is going to come up with new maps. Slavin's going to come up with new maps, get them reprogrammed and whatever. But again, GET, AiM, Vortex. Vortex is a great deal. You just bought the bike. I don't want to put a lot of money in this bike, blah, blah, blah. Oh, there's a $400 Vortex on eBay. Buy it. Totally worth the money at that point. So that is my official opinion. And we all know what they say about opinions. And it's true. All right. So questions, comments, keep it respectful or clean, or I'll just ban you because I don't have time for this stuff. Down below, I answer everybody's questions to the best of my ability. Having said that, stop asking the internet for advice. Talk to the manufacturer or your retailer, right? Ask them what they think about this, or what does this do? They probably actually know and won't give you something that they heard from another forum on the internet. Okay, enough of my rant. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching. I really appreciate it.